Shalom, shalom. Kahalal Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rachakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well, and salutations to the hopeful elect, pushing the word and truth in the name of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai on the four corners of the earth. This is Ira coming at you with another lesson, and this video is going to be on the new Orwellian ID that's proposed from the British Parliament. Now, the thing about this Orwellian or this digital ID, what makes it so significant isn't the fact that it's just like a regular ID. It's like a QR code, or it's a or it's like, some type of app that you have. What makes it significant is the fact that the British Prime Minister said that it's going to be made mandatory and it's going to be enacted by the end of this year, and that it's going to be used for all manner of things, including your banking. And that lines right up with Revelations, the 13th chapter, which this guy here from CBN News is going to point out as well. So I'm going to play the clip, and then I'm going to skip about an hour and 45 seconds ahead to the meat and potatoes, and then we'll get into the information in the scriptures.
In what's being called Orwellian, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer just announced mandatory digital IDs. Take a look.
And that is why today I am announcing this government will make a new free of charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this Parliament. Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID.
Now, he also said you won't be able to work in the United Kingdom without digital ID. So not only will you not be able to live there, you won't be able to get into the country and things of that nature. You won't be able to work, which means you won't be able to eat. Which means you won't be able to buy or sell things. So it all wraps around in conjunction with each other.
It's as simple as that.
British civil rights activist Emily Emanuel joins us now. So Emily, what was your reaction to Starmer?
Now I'm going to skip to about a minute and 45 seconds to the meat here.
Well, what's interesting is, obviously he made this announcement and he painted it in a way that this would help curb illegal immigration. But a lot of people online are saying, wait a second, you're saying these digital IDs where you won't be able to, buy or sell, sounds a lot like what we hear in Revelation 13 when it comes to the mark of the beast. People are wondering, is this like a precursor to that? So let me just read what the Bible actually says about that, and then you can draw the dots together if you think they fit. It also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads, so that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name. Then the next verse says, "This calls for wisdom."
Now, obviously, he's not reading King James Version. He's reading the New World Translation of the Bible, which we'll get into the King James Version in a second. But going to what he said before he started reading the verse is that more and more people online are starting to realize that the Charagma is coming. That the mark is coming, pursuant to Revelation 13 chapter. So people aren't dumb. And the thing about this is that people are starting to, draw up petitions. They're starting to openly protest this. And it's only been, 2 days? So people aren't going to go quietly, and the fact that Keir Starmer said it's going to be forced, it's going to be mandatory, is even going to make it an even bigger problem. But this is what the prophets have been telling you since the beginning, that this is going to happen. And Britain isn't the only one that's actually enacting a digital ID system. They're just the first ones to televise it, And matter of fact, I actually looked this up. This is an article that I have from Sky News. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to go into the countries where digital ID really already exists or is already in a pilot, so to speak. Because not only Britain has their digital ID gearing up, right? They had to have an example to compare it to, an example to copy, right? which Europe also has a digital ID system coming as well. So you can't really say that they can't really say that Britain is the first one to do this when this has been in the works for decades. You know, so this is from Sky News, the countries where digital ID already exists, and let's see, here we go. It says, however, by the end of 2026, the EU is hoping to roll out the digital identity wallet, which it says is Europe's answer to the challenges of identification. Now, the reason why they have challenges of identification of who lives in who's a citizen, who's not a citizen, obviously because of the rapid immigration coming from the war-torn countries in the east side of the world. It says the wallet will enable citizens of the EU member states to access online and offline public and private services. So, meaning without a digital ID, you won't even be able to get on the internet. You won't be able to access, public aid programs, government aid programs, things like that. You won't be able to go to stores. It says it says, and share digital documents and create binding signatures. Now, this is a map of all the EU countries set to roll out digital ID wallets in 2026. Now you have Finland, Sweden, Estonia, Denmark, Lithuania, Germany, Austria, Italy, Romania, Bulgaria, Greece, France, Spain, and Ireland. And now you have, Britain, which is here. So really that's 11. So now you have a whole conglomerate of EU states, that are willing to push out this digital ID wallet. It says a large-scale pilot projects are currently testing how the EU digital identity wallets will function in a wide range of situations before it is launched across the EU. Over 350 companies and public authorities across 26 member states, as well as Norway, Iceland, and Ukraine, are participating. And we knew Ukraine was going to hop in the bandwagon with this, pursuing, as a consequence of that Ukraine war and joining NATO. It says in France, the France Identité app allows citizens to combine their identity card, driver's license, and vehicle registration document in a single application. So not only will you have your documents, your registration, your identity, but also what's going to go into this is medical documents. Well, what's going to go into this is your banking. Now we have semblances of this here in the United States. Like we have your Apple Wallet, your Android wallet. Now you can put your ID on your phone. You know what I'm saying? You can put your passport. You can put your boarding passes when you get on and off planes on your phone. We have this thing called a real ID. So it's slowly creeping up in the United States on this western part of the world. But the EU is willing to go full-fledged with this. Now, this is from just a strict Google search. Now, this is an AI overview, right? It says many countries, including Estonia, Singapore, Australia, India, Denmark, and South Korea, use digital ID systems for accessing government and private services, with some, like Estonia, offering a mandatory system on smartphones. Other countries like the UK are set to introduce them, while nations such as China have launched government-controlled digital identities, raising concerns about increased surveillance. And the thing with China is China also has a social credit system. So they'll be able to cut you off if you do anything wrong. They'll be able to block your bank accounts. They'll be able to freeze your assets. They'll be able to do to you what they do to federal criminals quickly and efficiently. It says the European Union has also worked towards a universal EID wallet for its citizens by 2026. Now it says examples by country region. You have Estonia, Singapore, India, United Kingdom, China, European Union, South Korea, Australia. Now the key characteristics are access to services. Digital IDs allow for easy access to government and private services, such as medical records, voting, banking, and e-commerce. So you literally will not be able to buy or sell without this digital ID. Now, this digital ID is not the Charagma because it's not implanted in your skin. But this is a precursor. This is a prelude to the Charagma. Once they have all the infrastructure set up, all they'll have to do is bring the hardware. And that's going to be as simple as getting some engineers to build it and mass produce, ship it out, and set up centers to get these thing injected into citizens. So once they have the software and infrastructure in place, the hardware will follow, and then the snowball is just going to start rolling downhill. It says mandatory versus voluntary. Systems vary from mandatory Estonia to voluntary Switzerland and Denmark, which, we know that voluntary is going to turn to mandatory real soon. It says mobile first approach. Many systems are mobile based, leveraging smartphones for identity verification. Concerns. In countries like China, there are concerns that these systems can be used to enhance government surveillance and control over citizens' online activities. And that is true. This whole thing is a facade. It's a facade when they tell you they want to keep you safe and they tell you they want to keep immigrants out of the country. For one, it's not going to keep immigrants out of your country. If I'm running from a war-torn country like Syria or Afghanistan or Ukraine, hell, even if I'm coming from Nepal, who just overthrew their government, I'm going to risk my life to get into a so-called perceived safer country, whether or not it's legal or not, whether I have this so-called digital ID or not. When it comes for people fearing for their lives, they don't care about the law. So this isn't going to make the country any less secure. What it's going to do is agitate the citizens, which is going to cause civil unrest, which is going to cause sedition, which is going to make most of these countries that have the voluntary rule go from voluntary to mandatory, which is going to enact a lot more martial law, which is going to enact a lot more dictatorship and government lockdowns. This thing is already going to it's already snowballing. The snowball is building and it's building. It's only a matter of time until it starts rolling downhill and you can't stop it. Hell, I think, it's already rolling downhill, But I just wanted to go over a couple of scriptures real quick, including Revelation 13th chapter. But it's 2nd Ezra chapter 15, verse 14. It says, "Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword in their destruction draweth nigh. And one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands," which we know now the modern day sword is a gun, so, and gun ownership is on the rise right now, especially in the United States, and you have sister countries like UK, which is astonishing because they outlaw guns over there, but guns keep popping up in spectacular fashion, so they're going to be literally fighting with one another, man. You have the prices of goods going up sky high. Gas is going to be insane once again. You have the prices of food. The prices of clothing. Everything is coming to a head with inflation. This inflation bubble is going to burst, and when it does, we're going to be looking at Germany. Germany. Slacking. We're going to be looking at Germany level, World War II level inflation, man. It said the Weimar Republic levels of inflation. Slacking. Took me a minute to remember the name of the republic. But yeah, we're going to be looking at Weimar Republic signs of inflation. And we're already at record numbers for homelessness. So now the homelessness is going to be a sky high, man. Rent's going up crazy. Nobody is buying houses anymore. The rent prices are higher, 4 times higher than mortgage payments, even with low interest rates, So things are going to get really, really bad out here. And the digital IDs are only going to make it worse because you won't be able to do anything without them, So the next thing is sedition. It says, verse 16, it says, "For there shall be sedition among men and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the curse of their actions shall stand in their power." So the police and these politicians and, all of these government officials, including, you have your National Guard and you have your military that'll be deployed like the military is already deployed in Chicago and in D.C. and, multiple cities around the states because of this immigration problem, that was caused by the Biden administration through the immigration pipeline up through Brazil, So you have all these issues that have been caused, problem, ordo ab chaos, you have all these issues that have been all this disorder has been caused, right? That they want to bring chaos. I mean, they want to bring order out of the chaos, you know? So with that, you're going to have people pushing back, and it's already starting to happen, but it has yet to happen on a mass scale, but this is what we're waiting for. This is what we call martial law, and this digital IDs are only going to help bring martial law. You see what happened in Nepal earlier this year, about a month ago, how they overthrew their government, man. We're going to see more government uprisings, or not government uprisings, but more citizenship, civil uprisings. Slovakia. We're going to see more civil uprisings. It says, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. And that's going to be from a plethora of things, man. Some of these cities will be quarantined because there are new diseases on the rise. There are going to be new endemics and epidemics and pandemics. Also, we're going to have these checkpoints. If you don't have this real ID, or sooner or later, if you don't have the Charagma, you don't have that injection, you won't be able to go into these cities either. So it's coming to a head where you're going to see movies like Resident Evil, and movies like End Time, and movies like Quarantine, come to life. Movies like The Siege, all these movies aren't just movies anymore. All these movies are going to turn into real life real soon, man. It says, for because of the pride of the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. And men shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. Yeah, because a lot of these people aren't going to take the digital ID, and some will take the digital ID, but it's going to be on a social credit system. So what's going to happen when one day you can wake up and you can buy food, and then the next day you can't wake up and buy food because, you voted wrong, or something goofy like that, or you voiced your opinion, you voiced the wrong opinion, and now your bank account got docked. So now you got $20 to eat for the month. What do you think they're gonna do? They're gonna resort to petty crime, man. All because of the Charagma. And this is going to happen on a worldwide scale. So right now you have the digital ID, which is in 12 countries right now, right? But this Charagma that's pursuing the Revelation 13 chapter is going to happen on a world scale. This is just a prelude. This is Revelation 13 and 15. It says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. And the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And that image of the beast is the Roman way of life, man. In the Caesar Borgia, the other white meat is not the image of the beast. It's part of the image of the beast. The image of the beast is the philosophy that makes up the driving force of this world, man. Parts of the image of the beast include religion. Includes following after the politicians and the laws. It includes, taking the Charagma, taking this, taking the Charagma and the philosophy of the world to the point of no return against the Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Salakia. It says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Now, what also you're going to have is you're going to have these pilots probably rolling out in prisons and as prison reform. You can't get out of prison unless you receive this digital ID. Now and then it'll become you can't get out of prison unless you receive the Charagma. It says both small and great, rich or poor, and we understand that because you won't be able to do anything without having this piece of equipment. Just like the Prime Minister of Britain said. He said you won't even be able to work without this. Which poses a huge problem for blue collar society. It says, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. So there you have it right there. There's now the scripture is speaking so loudly, there is no way that you can refute that, that this is on the way. Like the guy said in the interview, he said, like the newscast said in the interview, he said, look, most people online are saying that this is maybe, the mark, you know, and he's completely right. Verse 18, it says, here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for the number of a man. And his number is 603 score and six. So it's not going to be Satan coming out of hell and, coming out of the Pacific Ocean, you know what I'm saying? And throwing chips at you, man. The man that's going to enact this is going to be Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. And we're seeing this live and in color now, This is 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 11. It says, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices, And going into this word devices here, this word Noma.
Strong's G 3540, Naima.
A mental perception, thought, and evil purpose, that which thinks the mind, thoughts, or processes. And the evil purpose or this evil thought is to enact this digital ID, which is a precursor to, the Charagma. And we understand that, look, man, this ain't got nothing to do with immigration reform, Immigration reform is just being used to push this agenda of controlling and surveilling all citizens on the planet, to be honest with you. And the Lord is pushing these wars and pushing this immigration issue so that we can get pushed further into the prophecy, because as of now it stands, now you have people coming out of the woodwork. Oh, you guys on the corner were right. You guys on the corner were right. Hey, the Bible says this, the Bible's correct. The Bible, everything is the Bible said is coming true, but you still got a lot of niggas, still got a lot of niggas talking shit, man. Still got a lot of dudes that are saying, oh, well, it's still not, that's still not what that means. And, there's still no, I just say it still ain't no microchip, but the scriptures are speaking and they're not lying, man. Scripture saying the end it shall speak and not lie. Well, we are seeing the end of this thing, and it's speaking, This is the last scripture here. This is Ezekiel 33 and 30. It says, and also, thou son of man, the children of thy people still are talking against thee by the walls and in the doors of the houses, and speak one to another, every one to his brother, saying, come, I pray you, and hear what is the word that cometh forth from the Lord. And they come unto thee as a people cometh, and they sit before thee as my people, and they hear my words, but they will not do them. For with their mouth they show much love, but their heart goeth after their covetousness. Yeah, you got, oh yeah, I'm gonna be you got a lot of dudes, man. I'm gonna start reading, I'm gonna start doing this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, But really they don't care because it's not in their face yet, Nobody gives a damn until it's in your face, And now this thing is coming to a head now where you won't be able to deny it. It says, and lo, thou art unto them as a very lovely song of one that hath a pleasant voice and can play well on an instrument. For they hear thy words, but they do them not. Right. It's like a fad to people, It's like they don't really acknowledge it, but they Jake likes to bullshit. Jake likes to bullshit, Oh, I hear you, but never really actually understanding the weight of the words that are being spoken into their ear until they see it for face value, It says, and when this cometh to pass, lo, it will come, right? Because we were seeing it live now and in action. Then shall they know that a prophet hath been among them. And that's the point, man. People are starting to understand that the Bible is coming to fruition, And everybody on the planet has been, on this normalcy bias, way of living, But as of this moment, there is no denying the power of the scriptures, man. So with that, I know this video has been a little long-winded, but I had to get that out, So hopefully, you Akim and Aquath are edified in the spirit in the spirit and the Holy Spirit. So hopefully you're edified in the Howard Kakadash. I want to give all praises to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Kakodash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Ruel, and citations to the hopeful elect on the four corners of the earth, pushing the word and pushing the name of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai in truth and in sincerity. Shalom.